this is just a technicality that technically they're not accessible. How about this? For now, I guess I can try insert code. How about that? Right? Insert code. And, well, that didn't go too well. How about, insert code. How about a getter for the area, right? Getter for the area, right? So we can at least temporarily expose it to the controller. So generate that method, and it gets added here. Get area for displaying elevators, right? So now I have this very simple getter which simply returns the text area box reference to the outside world. So now I can use this method right here inside the controller demo and say, you know, instead of going directly to the data member, we just replace it with get, right? So if you have not programmed with objects a lot of this may look a little bit confusing in terms of the syntax, but again, this is by demonstration. This is not you know, exactly any sort of you know, scientific approach to every part of the syntactical part here. I'm just hoping that you intuitively follow what I'm trying to build. Something like this, right? I create the window, which was originally created by the wizard. I kind of tweaked it a little bit to make sure that I can use this object on multiple lines. We created the controller. We let the controller know where the window is. We let the window know where the controller is. And then we're trying to make sure that that button click actually utilizes all of this sort of like infrastructure which we're trying to establish, right? So let's see how it all works. So for your review, this is so far what I have in my controller. Let me just condense this a little bit so you can see everything on the screen. Perhaps the most complex method so far is this move elevator, because it's trying to talk to the window and it cannot directly get to the text area that it wants to update. Instead, what it does is uses the getter method to get the reference to the window, and then says, actually the reference to the area, text area, and says get text, and then changes the text to something new. Okay, so hopefully this time it's not gonna object to what I'm doing. So nothing changes visually, but now we have the controller and we have the window, and I can still type in if I wanted to, which is not exactly what I might want, but the button actually does append, and now we know that all the button does now is just calls the controller. All right. So these are some basic arrangements that we made for, you know, planning for having the proper architecture, right? So we have the window, we know what the window needs, we know what the window is capable of in terms of the clicks, displaying something so far, and then now we're moving on to this area of business model, right? So we're eager to put together some objects that contain some data and get a little bit, you know, a few steps closer to some kind of simulation or maybe even animation of movements of the elevator. All right, so just again, I truly hope that you read the business description. It takes a while to get used to sink your brain into all the details because you know, these code demonstrations are going to stop, you know, maybe next week, and then we're going to focus more on the design. So kind of push on the sideline the coding, and then discuss the design ideas, design principles, use case model, functional specification, our first homework assignment, and so forth and so forth. But for now, I really want you to get started with the code, so I'm trying to make sure that you get a feeling for maybe this Java framework that we're trying to utilize here to get you started early, myself included, I guess. All right, so So don't be shy to add things to this window, although it seems like it's so much in control of this designer, right? You can see I find places where I can add my own code, and that's fine. Okay, so turning the page, and I think going back to our package, and now let's add some business layer objects. I will give them some simple names. Again, those are normal windows, normal classes, right? So we just say Java class, elevator bank. How about that? Just to keep it realistic, usually there's more than one elevator in the building, so it's very natural to have the elevator bank. Should it be a software class? Yes. Yeah, it's sort of like a very natural type of thing to do. And I'm thinking now that at some point, again, maybe a few weeks from now, maybe a couple, maybe 3 weeks, we can also demonstrate how to do exact same thing in C, using the C programming language. And again, perhaps trying to follow the model view controller requirements for the model view controller architecture requirements in this little project, we will carry on with that as well. And I honestly try not to over-engineer anything here, but to keep it as small as I can, at least for the demo, right? Just like keep the smallest amount of code written for this demo. And same thing we should be able to demonstrate in C. How do you write the smallest demo in C which will fulfill the all of these requirements for MVC architecture and do something similar. So that's coming, not today obviously, we just don't have enough time today. All right, so elevator bank, same package, add that, right? So we're just gonna keep on adding to this. So right now the responsibility of this class elevator bank is going to be to keep track of the elevators. How about that, right? Since I don't know how many elevators are there realistically, I will make it a collection. Instead of making an array of elevators, I will make it a collection, and many people are very happy with just a collection style, keeping track of multiple objects. So I'm just going to say array list, because array list is an absolutely obvious choice for Java. Array list of elevators, right? I do not have an elevator right now, but I will add it, and this will be called elevator collection. Again, don't assume that this is a good name. I'm just thinking about something. If I don't like it, I'm gonna have to change it. Array list of elevators, and this is going to be an elevator collection, and this is going to be my data, and of course this is going to be some kind of constructor. So I'll just for now just say constructors, anticipating some constructors, and finally the operations. I like the word operation because it's kind of neutral between C and C++ and Java, because in C++ technically things are called functions. In Java things are exclusively called methods, but operation is kind of one umbrella for both. So operation is a good word for me to use. All right, so what's missing here is the elevator. So naturally elevator should be just another business object, a business class that I'm going to add here, new Java class, right? And this is going to be an elevator, so finish, right? So we have the elevator. Just to, again, we should probably keep it more interactive between you and me. But again, if we think about the data, just right now, just quickly, maybe private integer floor, right? The elevator has to know which floor it is on right now in the simplistic model. Private int state, right? Some kind of state, which could be examples of that could be moving up, right? moving down, standing, and so forth, right? Just to give you an idea what the elevator should kind of know about, and other configuration parameters, right? It should also keep track of perhaps the number of the amount of riders, the passengers, or whatever. We can make it a little smarter in the future. Right now, what I'd like to do is to be able to move between the floors. So how about if I say, for simplicity's sake, I'd just simply initialize it to 0 to begin with. I don't know what that means, but I will decide later on, right? So right now, operations of the elevator would be something like void move up, right, up the floor, void move down the floor. Now notice how, I'm just thinking about C++ the way I'm typing it in. So in Java you have to add the actual bodies for the methods, right? But you see how I casually just think about something I need to be able to do, and I keep adding methods. It's very natural to add a method to a class, right? If it should be capable of doing something like this, why not add these operations? So again, for the sake of demonstration, this should say floor, right? This should, when moving up the floor, goes up plus floor, increment by 1, right? And when it goes down, it will say minus floor, decrement the floor. Right now, there's no validation. It's just, again, to get something very simple to be able to visualize. And you know what, floor 0 is probably not a good number for the floor, so I'll just initialize it on the first floor, right, for now. Again, this is not something properly and finally designed. This is just a total mock-up, just something to something more or less materialistic that we can think about. All right, so now the elevator bank array list of elevators, blah blah blah. Clearly we need to fix our imports, right? Array list has to be imported because this is a library object. It's not available. I mean, you have to be able to refer to it. So the elevator bank now has the array list declared. But in Java, every object, including array list, has to be created by new, right? So therefore, I need to add a public. By the way, this can be private, right? This entire list of elevators will be private. And now the public constructor for the elevator bank, right? The constructor will make sure that we say elevator collection, right, which is the collection of elevators, equals new, and we construct it as new array list of elevators, right? Just, for now it's a little verbose, but that's just the way I'm thinking about it right now. So we can create the elevator bank. So naturally we should have public add elevator. How about this? Of course, this is like, in a building, you cannot just add an elevator by executing a single method in some kind of on the computer. But in reality, this is all kind of simulation, and software allows us to change things in computer memory, so we can afford to have a method like add an elevator. And of course, it needs to say an elevator. It needs to get an elevator as an input. Essentially, we will create an elevator and say, elevator bank, add this elevator to your list, right? So. Of course, and by the way, this is now an operation, so I'm going to move it under my operation thing, right? So we want to keep things nice. We can add some more, like, sections to what we're trying to envision in this code, right? So we have some operations, add elevator, and this add elevator, what it's going to do is, again, this is most likely a void, doesn't return anything back method. So just say elevator collection, just say add, right? Just take the elevator, and this wizard kind of realizes that you already have a elevator parameter, input parameter, so why not add this one to the collection, right? So we have this, right? So in terms of the business objects, so now we can go back to our controller, right? And remember, in the controller we said let's have a specific method that says initialize use case. And by the way, in the frame window, I am calling initialize use case even before I create the window. But the business layer doesn't care about any windows, right? It's completely independent. It lives by its own set of rules. So entirely fine to say initialize use case, create my whatever I decide to create initially. Sure, right? So now we can say controller demo init use case, construct business objects. How about some elevators, right? So we can say we need an elevator bank, right? By the way, rewinding a little bit even more, since the controller is so centric to this use case, right? It's really sort of like not just controls, but it's kind of holds it in place. I can do this. I can say private elevator bank, right? Elevator bank. And I can just elevator bank. Now, also notice how boring my names are, right? So I'm not trying to use any acronyms. I'm just kind of just like recycling the same words over and over and over and over again, right? Just following the naming convention and doing that, right? So in that use case, fine, we can do it this way. Elevator bank equals, of course, we have to create it. New elevator bank, right? Just follow the construction syntax. You need to include empty parentheses, even if your constructor here doesn't use any input parameters. We still have to do this. And then elevator bank, right? We can say elevator bank dot add, right? Add elevator, and we have to create the elevator. So I could create again another temporary object, but here let me try something like this. Just simply say new elevator. New elevator, right? New elevator. Do we elevator, right? I could have, like, it doesn't have a constructor right now because I'm using like member initialization syntax here. So as soon as the elevator is created, let's just make sure that we're all on the same page. As soon as the elevator is created, it has two pieces inside, right? One is called floor, right? And another one is called state, right? Floor and state. And as soon as it gets created, because we have these initializers specified directly next to the member that we're trying to add, the floor is going to be set to 1 and the state is going to be set to 0. So every elevator that I create will be populated with these values. This may change in the future, but right now that's what I have. So I don't have any specific, any explicit constructors here, but that's what the object is doing as soon as it gets created. Right, so new elevator, and how about creating a couple of them, couple of elevators, right? So of course, to add these elevators to the collection is very simple. This is basically say collection add this elevator, and this is the method that I'm trying to call. Perhaps this is time for me to start moving these to parallel panels so that you can see whether I'm trying to code, right? So we're saying initialize use case, create new elevator bank, and then elevator bank add elevator method gets called. It has internally its collection, and collection is just say, hey, remember this elevator. All right.